In a scene that felt ripped straight from a high-stakes political thriller, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt launched a blistering attack against a federal judge whose decision had turned the administration's plans on their head. Channeling the bold style of President Trump himself, Leavitt didn't just take aim at the ruling, she called the judge an activist and even questioned the political leanings of his wife, noting her donations to certain causes. What was once a routine judicial ruling suddenly morphed into a dramatic confrontation that promised more twists ahead. The drama escalated when President Trump himself had earlier labeled Judge James Boasberg as a radical left lunatic, hinting at the possibility of impeachment after the judge temporarily halted deportation flights. In this heated debate, the judge was seen as challenging the president's power to send out foreign nationals he deemed a threat. Leavitt argued, with a tone that mingled defiance and resolve, that any such move by the judge was an overreach, a misuse of judicial power that the White House would not stand for. How far will this clash go? Leavitt's words painted a picture of a leader defending his authority under the framework of the Alien Enemies Act. According to her, the president had every right to continue his deportation campaign, even as Boasberg, whom she claimed was steeped in Democratic activism and appointed during the Obama era, tried to slow him down. With a sharp twist, she reminded everyone that the judge's wife, Elizabeth Manson, had donated over $10,000 to Democrats, a fact meant to underline her argument that personal politics were seeping into the bench. Is there any end to these personal jabs? Her criticism spilled over into every corner of the debate, asserting that the judge's repeated denials of the president's policies were simply unacceptable. Leavitt insisted that Trump had deep respect for Supreme Court Chief Justice Roberts, who had warned that impeachment wasn't the right remedy for disagreements over court rulings. The judge, Boasberg, came with an impressive resume, a Washington upbringing, Yale, Oxford, and a role as head of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court after being chosen by Roberts. A sharp reporter even pointed out that despite his Obama-era elevation, his career had roots in an appointment under President George W. Bush. And yet, Leavitt argued that a staggering majority of judicial injunctions in recent times had been aimed at Trump's actions. Was this all just a coordinated effort by those opposed to the president? In a defiant tone, she repeated that over 60% of judicial blocks had been issued against Trump's moves by what she described as bipartisan activists bent on stifling his agenda. Critics like lawyer David Lurie fired back on social media, suggesting that Leavitt's point might hint at a deeper problem, perhaps even evidence of Trump himself bending the rules. Meanwhile, when pressed about the identities of the people sent to El Salvador, accused gang members whose images had surfaced online, Leavitt offered no details, citing the secrecy of counterterrorism operations. "We trust our ICE and customs agents completely," she said, leaving many wondering just how much would be revealed next. Judge Boasberg later hosted a heated hearing with Department of Justice lawyers, probing whether the government had deliberately ignored his order. As some lawmakers from the party's MAGA faction took cues from Trump to move forward with impeachment efforts, voices like Colorado Representative Lauren Boebert chimed in. Boebert's fiery social media posts demanded that Congress act against activist judges who obstructed the will of the people. Even billionaire advisor Elon Musk joined in, signaling strong support for these moves with a simple yet emphatic emoji. Could the political firestorm get any hotter? The drama reached fever pitch when Trump himself, on his social media platform, lambasted the judge in harsh terms after the court's decision blocked his plan to deport over 200 individuals tied to alleged gang activity. In his post, he warned that if a president couldn't remove dangerous criminals from American soil because of one radical left lunatic on the bench, the nation was headed for disaster. Earlier, there had been hints of impeachment resolutions, one from Representative Boebert against a judge for blocking immigration measures, and even earlier calls by others to impeach President Biden over border policies. Every new comment seemed to fan the flames of an already blazing controversy. Adding more fuel to the inferno, legal experts began cautioning that Trump's challenge to judicial authority could be tipping into a dangerous violation of the balance of powers. Former Trump lawyer Ty Cobb defended Judge Boasberg, praising him as the best person to handle such tricky issues given his stellar background with the FISA court and his current role. Even as Musk took a swipe at another judge over rulings affecting transgender military policies, calling for a removal of judges to restore rule of the people, the debate roared on. The constitutional mechanics were clear. Removing a lifetime appointed judge wasn't as simple as a few angry tweets. Chief Justice Roberts then broke his usual reserve, issuing a stern reminder that impeachment was not the proper remedy for disagreements over judicial decisions. His statement was a clear call for due process. If the Trump administration had issues with a ruling, it should be handled through legal appeals rather than public attacks. With a knowing glance toward history and the balanced process of appeals, Roberts underscored that the judicial system, with its own conservative majority, was built to handle such disputes. Will the process restore calm, or are we headed into uncharted territory? In the wake of these comments, tensions rose further. The Justice Department fired back at Boasberg, accusing him of overreaching in his scrutiny of the deportation flights, a move it called a digressive micromanagement that ignored the serious challenges of national security. This latest clash unfolded just as Trump had again hurled insults at a judge he claimed was appointed by Obama and who was now standing in his way. On his social media site, Trump reiterated that his overwhelming victory was not accidental, but a mandate from the people who demanded that crooked judges be held accountable. The question lingered in the air: how far would these personal and political attacks go? During a subsequent interview on a major cable news channel, when asked about the Chief Justice's comments, Trump brushed them off, noting that his name wasn't even mentioned. The 78-year-old leader also recalled the calls for impeachment against judges labeled as radical left, a sentiment echoed by his advisor Elon Musk, who had been outspoken about removing judges who opposed him. Musk's earlier rallying cries and recent speeches at the Justice Department had stoked the fires even further, as did news of judges in California and Maryland overturning decisions regarding fired employees, another front in the ongoing legal battles. Is there any end in sight for these mounting conflicts? House Republicans, stirred by Musk's bold statements, continued their push to impeach judges. Representative Brandon Gill vowed to file articles of impeachment against the controversial Judge Boasberg, a move backed by outspoken figures like Representative Andy Ogles, who argued that history's great founding figures would have supported their cause. Amid all this, the most recent judicial ruling that blocked the deportation flights, actions taken under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, became the flashpoint. The White House disclosed that those sent to El Salvador were tied to a Venezuelan gang but kept their identities under wraps. The administration also revealed a $6 million deal to have them accepted by El Salvador, a fact that added yet another twist to the story. The Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, didn't hold back during a White House briefing, blasting the judge for acting as if he had the power to control international flights. In his words, it was the most outrageous overstep he'd ever seen, a sentiment that echoed the earlier warning from the American Bar Association. The ABA had recently warned that attempts to intimidate judges were a dangerous path, one that threatened to reshape the legal field by punishing dissent. With every word exchanged and every tweet fired off, the political and legal battle deepened. What will be the next move in this unfolding saga?